All right. Okay. All right. I'm Stan Helton, County Chairman, and we have on here Post Commissioner Patterson. Are you on there, Mr. Patterson?
I'm doing fine. Doing well. Thank you.
And we have Post Commissioner Earl Johnson. You with us, Mr. Johnson?
Present.
Okay. Mr. Johnson is with us. And here at our teleconference room, we have County Attorney Lynn Doss. We have County Clerk Ms. Sherry Walker. We have Eddie O'Neill, Director of Recreation Department. And we have Mr. Patrick Cook, who is enabling all of our audio equipment. So we do have a quorum, and I'll call this meeting of the Board of Commissioners in session. First item that we have would be unfinished business, which would be to approve the minutes of the March 10th regular meeting and the April 8th special call meeting via teleconference. Commissioners, you do have your minutes available, I believe, and if you would let me know when you're ready to move forward.
I'm ready.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson?
I've read the minutes and I have no objections.
All right. Neither do I. So I will make the motion that we approve the minutes of March 10th regular meeting and the April 8th special call meeting. I make a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay.
Aye.
Okay, it's unanimous. All right, moving on to public commentary. At our last teleconference, we had overlooked the ability to have public commentary. So for this meeting, what we did was send out on our agenda the opportunity for citizens to send in to Ms. Walker email, and Ms. Walker will read this. One omission on my part is I failed to specify that public commentary is primarily for Fannin County citizens. So that's my error. And what Ms. Walker will do is she will read the first comments from citizens, and then she will summarize the other comments that we got from folks that wanted to comment. And then for anyone or for the press, if you want a copy or any information that we have on who is the public commentary commenters, we will make that available to you. So, Ms. Walker, I'll turn this over to you at this time.
Okay. The first public comment that we have is from Dr. Stephen Pruitt, and I will read his comments. He states, as a physician, I support the plan to continue shelter in place and other restrictions for the next month or so. Fannin County is my primary residence. I am now retired 3 years from over 20 years practice in Rome, Georgia. Our danger is from inadequate testing and lack of tracking of personal contacts. We are surely flying blind at present. Although I am concerned about the health of the citizens overall, I am most concerned that the medical system will be overstrained. We cannot sacrifice our medical professionals on the altar of personal liberty or economic need. If we lose numbers of medical personnel to COVID-19 way too early, then we risk having no staff later in the epidemic and none to care for us in the usual emergency. Whatever the governor's comment, I trust that you will keep our citizens safe. And this is from Dr. Stephen Pruitt, which resides on Asco Road in the Cherry Log section.
I wouldn't say too much specific on their addresses. I'd just say these are citizens. Thank you, Dr. Pruitt, for those comments. And Ms. Walker, you can proceed on, please.
All right. The next comment is from Joe DePietro. He is the owner of the North Georgia Trout Fishing. He states to the chairman, Mr. Helton, and the board, I'm writing you as a resident of Fannin County and local small business owner, North Georgia Trout Fishing, to ask the board to please allow me and many others like myself in Fannin County to get back to work. I applaud the effort made by passing the local ordinance aimed at trying to prevent tourists from flocking to our area like they do for its just merits, aimed at protecting those of us who live and work here. However, what resulted was mass confusion among people as to what folks could and couldn't do. This rippled throughout Georgia as I received countless phone calls and emails from folks all over asking if there were roadblocks in Fannin, were there trout streams open, was it legal to fish, and etc. To say this ordinance made tourists feel unwelcome would be an understatement. It was intent. I don't disagree with that. However valiant your intentions were with this ordinance, the truth is that it did not work. There have been plenty of people here from all over the country. I've witnessed 2 SUVs in Caches Valley recently with New York plates. I know it's not for lack of attempting to make people comply on the part of the law enforcement community, who I applaud for their efforts in the current times. Simply put, people didn't want to stay home, and many of them wound up here despite the ordinance. Considering the failure of the ordinance, it'd be prudent to lift it immediately so as to not unnecessarily leave local residents and businesses that rely on tourists financially hamstrung any longer. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you for those remarks, Mr. DePietro.
And the next is from Mr. James English. He's a property owner and a rental manager, and he states that we strongly disagree with reopening. All of this will happen for nothing if we allow the virus to relapse on Georgia's citizens. We're pushing for June or July to reopen. Our lives depend on it. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. English.
And then I have a couple of other comments, and I'll just state the people that are here and kind of summarize them. These were sent in from Kevin and Michelle Isaac of Blue Ridge, Georgia. And I have one from Scott and Lisa Fell from the Morganton area. And I have one from Mr. Scott Taylor from Blue Ridge, Georgia also. And they're just expressing their concern and urging the county to reopen the short-term rentals.
Okay. We thank you folks for those comments. Then do we have any other comments here at this time?
That's all we have.
All right. Well, folks, we do appreciate you sending those public comments in. When we get back to a normal meeting, it'll be much friendlier and better for you. And we apologize, but this was the best we could do under the circumstances we have. But again, thank you for your comments. We appreciate each one. Okay, moving on to new business. Our first item is a variance request for Mr. Anthony Rivera. And this is to place a garage 31 feet from the edge of Shekinah Ridge Drive and 37 feet from the center line of Shekinah Ridge Drive. This is a private road, and I've been out there and looked at it. Commissioner Patterson, do you have any comments on this item, sir?
No, I went out there and looked at it as well, and because of the creek, it seems like that would be no objections from me.
Okay, all right. Commissioner Johnson, sir, do you have any comments on this request?
No, I have no issues with the variance.
Okay, all right. Well, neither do I, so I will make the motion that we approve this variance for Mr. Anthony Rivera to place his garage at the edge of Shekinah Ridge Drive and from the center line 37 feet. I'll make the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Johnson. All in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, all right.
Aye.
It's unanimous. Variance is approved. Okay, item number 3, Mr. Eddie O'Neill, our Director of Recreation, has been looking at our situation at the 3 county parks and the large rec center that we have that services our community. And Eddie, we've had a number of conversations, and you have presented a plan that I would like you to go over if you would. And it's a very detailed and a very thorough plan, and I think it's a proper way to us to start getting back to normalcy out at the rec center. So Eddie, I'll turn it over to you, sir.
So what we like to do or propose is a slow reopening of the rec center facility as the outside track has remained open. So what we would propose is to schedule by appointment the use of the facility in a 1-hour time limit. Facility is basically broke into 2 parts: the walking track upstairs and then the 4-court gymnasium. So we would allow 1-hour time limits to residents only. We would allow no more than 10 persons to use the walking track upstairs, which is just a little over 1/10 of a mile. So that leaves plenty of room for social distancing. We would allow 4 patrons per half court on the gymnasiums at a time. Half of that would be for people who play pickleball, the other half for people who want to shoot basketball. And with the basketball, there would be no games, no scrimmages, no physical contact. Just come in and shoot basketball. And we would, after 1 hour, we would rotate to the next group of patrons who wish to use the park. One thing, or the gym, and we would also require, we have touch thermometers, so we would do a temp check as people enter the building. We would continue to cancel. Yoga classes will move outside, less than 10 people. The exercise class, Silver Sneakers, remains closed at this time. The playground and pavilion would still stay shut down at the River Park and at Tom Boyd Park.
All right. Since I've had the advantage of talking with Eddie about this ahead of time, Commissioner Patterson, let me open up any questions or discussions that you want to have about Eddie, how Eddie's going to handle this. Sir, I'll turn it over to you.
Chairman, I hear you clearly. We had a little feedback problem, I think, when Eddie was talking. What was the date that he's going to open up?
Be May 4th.
May the 4th?
Correct.
And you're going to, again, just to summarize, you're going to just go by appointments and for an hour each, keeping social distancing. Is that correct?
That's correct. There would be no more than 38 people in the whole facility at one time.
Okay.
If that helps.
And everybody, are you requiring them to, are you going to ask them questions when they come in? Are you going to take their temperature, or?
That's correct.
Maybe.
We will ask questions, and as we sign them in, we will take their temperature with touchless thermometers.
Okay. And I know you always keep hand sanitizer out there, so I'm sure you'll have that on hand as well.
Correct. We've bought up about 3 gallons of hand sanitizer.
Good. I can't think of anything else at this time. Eddie, I sure appreciate you letting us know about this, and hopefully we'll get off to a smooth start. Now, if someone does have a temperature, what is it? You just turn them away? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And you can, like, if 2 people want to come, my wife and I, they both can come at the same time, correct?
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Till we fill up at, say if you come to walk, we do it.
Right.
We want to do it by appointment so that people aren't just showing up and we have to turn them away.
That's good. That's good. All right. I don't have any questions at this time, Chairman.
Okay. Commissioner Johnson, sir, do you have any points you want to make on this, sir?
Well, I've looked at the plan, and I think it's a very thorough plan and a good way for some of our citizens to be able to get out and start to resume some recreational activities. I myself have no issues with what he set forth, and I think it's a good way to start back.
Okay. Well, that's I want to commend Eddie and his staff because we know that we certainly have some folks that are at risk when they go back out there, and it's a very carefully crafted plan, and I think it's just the right amount of how to open the facility up, and then we'll continue to monitor what's happening in our county with the COVID-19, and then I really think we're better off to just get information and data from the appropriate sources instead of just setting an arbitrary date and hope that we're there. I think the information we get should be what drives our decision on whether we open it up even further. But that's obviously a little far on down the road. But I'm personally pleased with how much time and effort Eddie and his staff put into this, and I think it's a guide that we can look at wherever we're talking about with groups of individuals getting together for exercise. So, Eddie, I think it's a great plan. And for anyone, we'll make this policy procedure available. They can get that from here. Or Eddie, will you have that on your Facebook?
Yeah, we'll put it on our Facebook page, our web page, and Twitter sites.
And so we can make that available to anyone a copy of this. And I think in addition, Eddie's done something on this reservation. They have signage at the rec center, so they're very aware of the folks that come in there and walk. And he's going to make an effort to reach out to them and give them information, so that we'll have a minimum people that come out there and get turned around for lack of an appointment ahead of time. So that's very good. Eddie, you've got another item that you want to address with us, I believe, for some materials out at Tammany Park.
Yes, correct. We need to replace a bunch of the trash cans at Tammany Park. The bottoms are rusted completely out. They are steel trash cans. So, like permission to order 9 additional trash cans. They're expanded aluminum trash cans, and that total would be $5,104.44.
Well, this was Eddie's exactly right. These were old cans, and they had rusted out on the bottom, and we had some unnecessary creatures get in there and make it even worse. So the garbage cans, those with the problem, have been already removed. So Eddie's needs to be able to move on this fast. So, Commissioner Patterson, you have any thoughts on this recommendation for the trash can, sir?
No, we need to keep the parks clean for all of our citizens, and it's necessary. Those trash cans probably sound like they last a long time, and we're all about putting our best foot forward and keeping Fannin clean and beautiful, so that we can go out and enjoy our parks. So I have no objections.
Good. Commissioner Johnson, you have anything to say, sir?
I have no issues with the purchase of the garbage cans.
Okay. All right. Okay, then I will make the motion that we approve the purchase of the garbage cans for Tammany Park for a total of $5,104.44. I'll make the motion. Do I hear a second?
Second.
second by Commissioner Patterson. All in favor say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Unanimous. Mr. O'Neill, thank you very much, sir. Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 4, our first quarter financial report. And first of all, commissioners, did you get a copy of the of our first quarter financial report?
I did.
Okay. Okay, Commissioner Patterson, you did. Did you also get a copy, Commissioner Johnson?
That's correct.
Okay, good. Okay. On our first page where we have the total administration actual budget of $28,563,575. That is the total budget for this year. And for the first quarter through March to be on budget, a department or aggregate of departments would be at 25% of their budget. And in looking at the different departments, administration, which combines a number of offices, is 2% under. And the risk management, which is the health claims and the liability on county assets, is at 27%, which in actuality is about $30,000 out of a annual budget of $1,850,000. So it's slightly over at this point. Then our debt, which is at 50%, the budget expenditure is for $1,120,000, and that debt is strictly the debt on this courthouse. So one payment has been made in the first quarter for half of that amount. The second payment will be made later this year. So after this year, that would leave us at $1.1 million on the debt of this courthouse, which has been a debt that's been out there for 16, 17 years. And it'll be a great moment in the county when we'll get that long-term debt off of our financials. And that will be, I'm sure a lot of folks that were involved and maybe not still around, that would be a great moment for that to happen. Were there any questions overall? Because our budget total on all the departments aggregate is at 21% of our 25% goal. In other words, that's to our good. Any comments or questions on that, commissioners?
Commissioner Patterson has none. I've spoken to our Chief Financial Officer, and I'm satisfied.
Okay. Any questions or concerns from you, Commissioner Johnson?
No, I have none at this point.
Okay. All right. Then our second sheet is just strictly the same numbers put into a pie chart. It would be a little redundant to go over that, and we'd move on to our points of interest, which is 25% into the budget, and we'll go over each one of these. And if you have any questions, commissioners, you can stop me at any time, or certainly you'll have opportunity when we go through this. The recreation department is running under budget, 22% instead of 25. That's certainly good. Our maintenance budget is about 0.5%. It's right on target out of an annual budget of $639,000. And then we'll move on to the public works, the general fund, which is primarily the wages and salaries at the public works and some other items to fund that office that are non-splossed. And at this point, that part of the general fund, that public works, is at 21%. The new splosh, which we're now strictly in the new splosh for public works, and the annual budget there is $2,839,000. And obviously, the paving season is where we accumulate a lot of the expenses, and that has really just not quite started yet, but it would be soon, and we'll talk a little more about that here towards the end of our meeting. Then we move on to the fire department, and their budget of $788,000 indicates that they're over by $61,000, but that is because of the lease payment on the fire truck, and we make that payment early in the year, and as we remember from last year, that amount that's over decreases slightly until we get to the end of the year, where last year it certainly wound up totally under budget. The EMS department, their budget of $2,205,000 is slightly over in wages at $21,000, and that's simply because of a lot of overtime that our emergency first responders incurred in the first quarter of this year, but it's not an abnormal amount. Then the tax assessor's office, their budget of $677,000, they're right on target at this point. Then moving on to the sheriff's department, and the sheriff's department is split in between the sheriff and the county detention center, which he's over both of those, but it's split out. And the sheriff's department alone is at 23% of their budget, which is to the plus of about $50,000. The county detention jail annual budget of $1,472,000 is slightly over $14,000 or 1%. And that again is wages and salaries, plus they pre-buy their uniforms, and that was done earlier this year. And that actually contributed to that number being slightly in the red as well. Any questions or thoughts, Commissioner Patterson, on the highlights of the budget at this point?
No, I have none.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Commissioner Johnson, sir.
The only comment I would have at this point, I'd just like to remind all of our department heads to be, as everyone, not only across our county, the state, the nation, and worldwide, to be very as conservative as we possibly can at this moment to make sure that as we creep our way out of this, to make sure that we can mitigate as much as we can the losses incurred. I mean, throughout all taxes and throughout every household. I'd just like to remind everyone to try and be, and they usually are anyway, but I'd like to just give a friendly reminder to all of them to be as conservative at this point as we possibly can be. Hopefully when all this nears an end, that we can get a better handle on it. But as we move forward, just watch every penny that we have.
Okay.
That's all I would have to say.
Those are very good thoughts, and we'll build on that on our next item because that's a big subject right now. We'll certainly expand on that, Commissioner Johnson. Thank you for your comments. To wrap up our financial report, the first quarter of this year, we are 4% under budget. That's January through March, and that's a pretty good start to the year, notwithstanding what we may be having to look at here very soon. Now, our lost and splost collection, local option sales tax and splost, through the first quarter of this year, both items, lost and splost, were up about 10% over the previous year. So the first quarter of this year, both in looking at our budget and controlling expenses, and then looking at our big ticket items of revenue, lost and splost, they certainly had us on the path for another tremendous year. So first quarter was pretty good. But as we all of us know, the situation going through the rest of the year has definitely some uncertainty. So we'll move on from that and on to item number 5. And this would be our discussion regarding our emergency declaration and ordinance, which we put the county's ordinance into action back on March the 25th. And then the state of Georgia, Governor Kemp implemented his health emergency declaration 9 days after we did. So I'm going to ask Ms. Doss to reiterate and point out where we stand right now. There's been, I don't want to use any critical words, but if there has been, with this situation as rapidly moving as it has, a lot of changes to this. We've tried to keep our ordinances from the county very simple to minimize the confusion. And during our public comments, there were a few statements made about folks being confused, and we certainly can understand that. But the emergency orders that have come from the state have been an effort to continue to keep things proper in the state and deal with this disease that's been prevalent all through the country and the world, and at the same time not choke out economic ability of people to make a living. But during that time, there's certainly been a lot of issues and a lot of confusion, and we've tried to make our county part as simple and for people to understand. But Ms. Doss, let me turn it over to you, and you can speak to that issue.
Well, Commissioners, as we all know, we have been in unprecedented times in our county and in our state, and of course in our nation. We have had 5 major executive orders issued from the office of the governor, and some of those have had as many as 5 amendments or subparts. So to the extent that there's been confusion, it's easily to understand why. Specifically as to the short-term rentals, the county acted similar to the state of Florida to put a hiatus on those until we could get a handle on everything. Then thereafter, the state came along and on April the 14th issued a shelter in place that applied to everybody and curtailed short-term rentals, and that was to go through April the 30th. Then on April the 23rd, the governor's office came back and said no short-term rentals would be curtailed until May 13th. Yesterday at 3:43, the governor's office came back and said, no, wait, we're changing again. And the restriction on short-term rentals will now expire, presuming it doesn't change again, on April 30th at 11:59 p.m. There was a citizen earlier that was talking about that he wished the county would take action. Since the governor stepped in and banned short-term rentals, there was nothing that the county was allowed to do that would have opened those up any sooner. As it stands right now, short-term rentals can be taken commencing May the 1st. I would encourage everybody to check with the office of the governor because they can change again. We got something at 10 minutes till 3 this afternoon from the Association of County Commissioners of Georgia. And it basically says at this point in time, there are so many orders that have been issued by the office of the governor that it is not feasible for counties to truly understand what the governor is saying can and cannot be done. And therefore, to the extent you have a constituent that asks you, can their business open or should their business open? First of all, remind them that nobody is telling them that they can't stay closed. The second thing is, if they want to open but they're unsure of whether or not they're allowed to, they should contact the office of the governor. We will try to post that phone number on the county website. And, maybe if they belong to a trade association, it's some kind of union, some kind of professional organization, that particular body may be able to give them additional information. But the governor's COVID-19 hotline and the office of the governor's number and email, we will post, Ms. Walker's indicated we will post that on the county's website so that you would be able to direct any of your constituents to that. Social distancing remains in place. Wearing a mask is suggested by the CDC if you're in a public place, and of course the proper use of hand washing.
Ms. Doss, bottom line, what you're saying is that when the governor initiated his emergency order, it effectively made and suspended Fannin County's ordinance, correct?
Superseded, yes, sir.
Superseded, and
yes, sir.
And at this time, really, we don't even need to vote to do anything. We voted to extend our original or our emergency decree until the end of this month, which exactly coincides with the state. So we don't really need to vote on this. It's going to expire on its own, correct?
Yes, sir. As to short-term rentals, yes, sir.
And essentially at this point, anything that we tried to do less than, more than what the state has, or anything that countermands is essentially null and void.
That is correct. The state is in charge at this point in time. Now, the shelter in place continues through essentially midnight on Wednesday, May the 13th. Courts are closed through May the 13th. If this changes, I'm hopeful that there'll be a little more notice than the two changes that have happened this past week, which really happened with no media coverage.
Okay. And I won't say everything's big, but the cabin rentals, the governor's already decided that effective midnight of Thursday night, all through the state, cabin rentals, vacation rentals are legal, viable, and nothing we can do can impact that at all. Correct?
That is correct.
Okay. Okay. Commissioner Patterson, you got any thoughts or questions from Ms. Doss about this?
Well, just some thoughts. I want everyone to move very cautiously and continue with these guidelines that we've heard over and over again from the White House, the State Department, and about washing hands, social distancing. You know, they said that we're not, you know, it's not back to normal. We've got a new normal, and it may stay that way for a while. I have concerns that we could, you know, have a spike or resurgence of the COVID virus, and that would not be good for anyone, for our economy or our people. We must remember that safety has to be predominant when the businesses open up. I realize it's a two-edged sword. I think someone said one time we need to try to balance it out but safety has to predominate, and we need to just move forward with measured steps, which, you know, some people think it's measured, some people say it's not enough, but Ms. Doss was very good in saying you don't have to open up unless you're ready, unless you want to. There's just a lot of issues that's been floating around. Seems like you hear different things that every day that, you know, what if this or what if that, but just, you know, be responsible, be respectful of others' safety as we take this next step, and let's take small, measured steps with a lot of caution.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Patterson. Commissioner Johnson, you have some comments or questions from Ms. Doss, sir?
I would like to say that, you know, what I've witnessed is we're all shooting at a moving target all the time. It seems like with the governor's office, and you know, while, you know, me personally, I strongly disagree with, you know, the way it's been handled by the governor's office. We shut down, we open up, and at this point in time, me personally, and I spoke with people on both sides of this issue, and I fully understand, as I stated at the last meeting we had. I think we all realize how this is affecting everyone in the tourist industry. But it's not just here in Blue Ridge, it's Pigeon Forge. It's every town like ours that thrives on tourists. The economy, just seems to revolve around it. And in every bad time, it just seems to me that, different situations, hurt in different ways. There's not a one size fits all fix for any of this. Me personally, and anyone that I know right now, the last thing on any of our minds is taking a vacation or going and renting a house in Florida. So it's hard for me to understand some of the comments about confusion with what's going on in our country right now. It's hard for me to understand personally how people can be confused about what's going on right now. But that's just me speaking, and I've tried reaching out to several people from all backgrounds, but really none of the ones I spoke to have any interest right now in taking a vacation or going anywhere. But I also understand the business owners here. This is affecting them in numerous ways. So, as a county, we're one county out of 159 in the state of Georgia. We kind of fall under the governor's reign, and I sincerely hope that opening vacation rentals up right back, a couple of weeks later doesn't make a huge spike in Fannin County. I mean, that's my hopes. I mean, because the way I look at life, there's nothing more important than my health and safety. But I'm not the governor of the state either, so I don't know many other words to put it in other than we just have to abide by what they put forth. While I don't agree with it, I guess like many other things in life, I just have to grin and bear it. I hope it doesn't set us back even further. But I've talked with other people in other counties that most of them larger than our counties, and they don't necessarily evolve around tourism. So their concerns are quite different than ours. And so it's really been hard to get a good grasp on, what others are doing, because this goes without saying, from the White House to my house, none of us have ever been here before. Mm-hmm. And I really don't know, what the correct measure is, but I know one thing, that time will tell in the coming weeks if, once vacation rentals, if they're open back up, I really hope, as both of you have mentioned, that people will proceed with caution and common sense is what I hope. And I hope our county is inundated with people, even with our order in place, as the one citizen commented, it's been hard to enforce anyway. I mean, I've seen plates here from all over. I don't know, as stated before, none of us have been here before, so I don't think any of us know the correct fix. And I don't think there's a correct fix for, all 159 counties. And I wish our governor would keep that in consideration. But at this point, it seems like it's pretty straightforward that ours will expire on April 29th. And there's not a whole lot we can do about it. So I would just urge everyone to proceed with caution. And for goodness sakes, if you're going to take a vacation anytime, I don't really think right now is the time to do it. But there are a lot more braver people in this world than me. That's my thoughts on the whole situation.
Well, the emergency declaration that we put in enacted back on March 25th. We did this, of course, the day before on the 24th. Just to remind folks, we had Dr. Miller, and we had a number of conference calls with the North Georgia Board of Health and other epidemiologists out of Emory, and they were urging all counties, the state, and certainly the information I had regionally and locally was indicated that this was coming. And the day that we had our workshop on the 24th was the first reported case in Fannin County. And I really feel like we as a board enacted strong measures. We had nothing to really guide us from other than just what we could come up with and try to address the big issues and try to keep folks from highly infected areas into coming up here and becoming super spreaders. You know, how much impact that's had, it's hard to get that kind of evidence right now, although the indications from our emergency services, the number of calls and the contacts that they've had definitely went down. Now, that's probably the best evidence I've had. We don't want to, we've been very fortunate in our county when you look at, and I looked at that Department of Public Health website many times during the day. Twice a day they're updating the status of every county in this state. And I can tell you I would not want to live down near the town of Albany. I certainly, my friend over at Bartow County, the commissioner there, has had his hands full with a real issue. And thanks to the good Lord, we at this point have not had this the horror stories that some other counties have had. And I feel like we made a decision, and we did it based not on emotion but on information and the data that we were getting, because I had a number of people calling here and quite emotional and understandable to do the two words that scares the daylights out of me as being a government official, and that's just do something. Well, when you just do something and it isn't well thought out, there's always potential for some kind of unforeseen result that may turn out to be more detrimental than the issue that you're trying to correct. I mean, it's kind of like, and this is an extreme example, we have in this country 40,000 people a year that die on the U.S. highways. Well, you could eliminate that by implementing and enforcing a 5 mile per hour speed limit. But what cost would you have at that? So that's kind of an extreme example, but to the folks that are listening and our folks in the news media, I know all three of us commissioners have tried to deal with this with the best information, with the best advice from health professionals and the folks that that run our operations center, emergency operations, and take their input. And of course, at this point, we effectively shut the door early, but as far as opening it back up, when to open it and how far is strictly in the governor's hands. And whether I agree with it or whether I don't, it doesn't matter. It's the law. So, and we are compelled to obey the law. So at the Thursday night, April the 30th, when the governor, his decree that he has in play runs out, then ours will as well. Where we'll have to be cautious is the governor's emergency powers that were given to him by the legislature extend through May the 13th. So we'll have to keep a close eye on that and make sure that if that happens, that we don't do anything as a county that impacts that negatively or any other way. So that order and what we put in play, and I thank both you commissioners for being. We've been just in lockstep on this, and our whole goal has been, number one, the health and safety of the citizens of Fannin County, and that's been it. To kind of address something that Commissioner Johnson, you brought up. At this point, the first 3 months of this year for the county and controlling expenses and revenues coming in was gangbusters. And then what's happening now, we know that cost potentially is going to go up for what we have to deal with, and most certainly revenue coming in, because our local option sales tax and our SPLOST tax, all that can be impacted. And I just wanted to throw something out and get y'all's input on this, is that for non-critical, and that's for us to determine that, for non-critical capital improvement projects, I would recommend that we suspend those until we have a better idea for the next 2 or 3 months, when we start getting better information on what's happening with our revenue and how that's going to impact our budget. I'd like to suggest that we put those projects on the back burner, not cancel, but delay them until we have a better feel for what's happening. Commissioner Patterson, what would you think about that, sir?
Yes, with all the uncertainty, I feel like the citizens and we just don't know what's going to happen in the future. We're taking this thing slow. We do not need to put any more undue stress on the citizens and the system in Fannin County. So I think that would be a wise move at this time.
Okay.
I agree.
Commissioner Johnson, what are your thoughts on that, on delaying the capital, non-critical capital improvements for the meantime?
I believe we don't need to spend a single dollar that is not necessary at this point. I know at my business in my home, that's exactly what we're doing. I think it's what every citizen's doing right now. I don't think any of us at this point, till we all figure out and see some of the dust settle, I don't think we need to spend any money at all that's not necessary, as you're calling critical. I mean, I think it's a good idea, and I think it's absolutely critical that we move in that direction right now.
Okay. All right. Okay. We can address these issues one at a time. Certainly with, our next board meeting is scheduled for May 12th. That's a Wednesday, and the governor's emergency powers are extended until the next day. So I'm hopeful that we can get back to face-to-face meetings, although we may obviously have to enact some measures to protect the public, limiting access, and certainly to protect the participants. But between now and then, I think our department heads can inform us on what is critical, and if there's something that has to be handled, we can certainly address it at that point. And hopefully May the 12th, we'll be able to sit down in person and discuss these things in an open format, and obviously accommodate things like public commentary in a better way than what we have. So we'll just move forward on that. And before I ask for adjournment, commissioners, I think I've said enough this evening. Any final comments, Commissioner Patterson, that you want to make at this time, sir?
Just wanted to again emphasize that we're not going to get back to normal soon. You heard the term new normal. The new normal will be social distancing and using these precautions we've heard all the time. I encourage that with all of our people in Fannin County, that we can do the best we can with what we have here. And just wanted to thank everybody for being working with us and trying to, we're all in this together. So we've got to work together, and I know Fannin County people will do that. I feel like when we have this pandemic, it's one of the best places to be because Fannin County people do care. They do care for others, and they're good with working together. And just remember that we're still got a new normal here, so be patient and work under those parameters.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Johnson, any final words from you, sir, before I ask for adjournment?
No, I believe I've said about everything on my mind this evening. I don't think I have anything additional.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank everyone for participating with us. Thank you for bearing with us. We're doing the best we can to handle county business in a legal way and a safe way. So without any further comments from the chair, I'm going to ask or make the motion that we adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned.
Aye.